everybody. Welcome to the 41st and best episode of the Hashcast. And as always, I have a guest way cooler and way interesting than myself. And tonight I have a guest who's also definitely more talented than I am. Ladies and gentlemen, Isla Hinck, how are you?
Hi. I'm flattered. Thanks for having me.
Well, I was going over your quick profile on your Choose Your Own Adventure website and just had a rundown of all the things you can and are doing, and it's quite impressive. So I hope this is not... I know you're slumming tonight, but I appreciate you coming on to this show because I've been wanting to talk to you for quite some time. For people who might not know who you are, and it's basically my mom listening to this episode, who is Isla Hinck and what is it that you do exactly?
Oh, I have to do this part.
Yeah.
I'm a person. I live in LA. I do video stuff and some music stuff, but mostly video. I am 1/9 of Easy Allies. We started 3 years ago. We used to be Game Trailers, which was a video games journalism entertainment website kind of deal. And now Easy Allies is kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Fan funded on Patreon and Twitch. And YouTube, I guess, not by the fans, but by ads.
Yeah. Good old ads.
Yeah, good old-fashioned ads.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the long and the short of it, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's you've been around for a while, and I think everybody who's listening to this episode already knows who you are because they're here for you tonight, which is great because hopefully we'll get some side of you that we haven't seen before. Maybe not. We'll see. But you guys had a big month, moved into a new studio.
Yeah.
I know you put a lot of work into that. I have one quick question on that. Like on the first episode, the orange and blue LEDs, was it a cheeky throwback to the Game Trader's colors, or was it just a complete coincidence?
For on the podcast?
Yeah.
It's meant to be red.
Oh, really?
And and the camera, that LED strip just looks kind of orange.
Okay.
I've since like made it a little different. I've made it pinker because in real life to the eye it looks red, and on the camera it's looking orange. And I've tried white balancing those cameras, and they just go. So right now they're just automatically setting themselves back to 56K, which is daylight.
Yeah.
Which is what they should be at. So I'm working out the kinks, but yeah.
I saw it like, wow, it's like the exact same color scheme as Game. I was wondering, maybe that's just a cheeky throwback there. But
the short answer is no, not intentional. Also, not intentional that the same people were on it that were on the first Easy Allies podcast and the last GT time. Yeah. Just a coincidence.
That I did not notice yet. So there isn't. We can knock that one out right there. So you've been doing this for how long? When did you move to LA again?
8.5 years ago, I guess. 2010. Yeah, September 2010. So I've lived here for 8.5 years. I've lived here. I lived in Chicago for 7 years before that. So I surpassed that a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
LA's a weird place, but it's grown on me.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's something I wanted to talk to you later about as well. Like it's a big step to move from one side of the country, in your case, to another. But where does it all come from for you? Like you have this passion for video music, video games now. When did you want to turn that into a career, or did it just happen to you?
It's sort of. I mean, it's always been a passion of mine. I've been making little videos. I mean, I wouldn't call them competent or anything, but since I was a kid, we would just kind of do it for fun, you know. And I made some like stop motion paper craft stuff right after South Park started, and we were like, hey, that's kind of fun. So we started making our own. I mean, I'm sure it's terrible. That and like Lego stop motion stuff. That was in like middle school, you know, high school maybe, and. So I've always been doing it. For the longest time, I wanted to be an actor. So I started out in theater school. And then they had a cut program. After my second year, I got cut from that, which was actually great. And because I wasn't really enjoying it too much, I wanted to be doing film stuff, you know. So then I moved into the digital cinema department. And kind of since then, it's been full steam ahead. I've always known... I've always known the realm that I wanted to be in, either writing or, stage or screen or something like that. So I guess I just narrowed it down. Yeah. And then the whole video games side of it is sort of more accidental, I guess. Like, I moved out to LA because my roommate, who was my best friend since I was like 4 years old in Chicago, Joe, decided he wanted to move back to Minneapolis, and I didn't. And jobs were kind of slow in Chicago, so I was like, I guess I'll go to LA. And thinking back on it, it seems crazy to me because I don't recall thinking about it at all. Yeah. I was just like, I guess I'll go to LA. Yeah.
Did you have people there? Or like, how did, because there's a story here a lot, like, I moved to LA, went to Hollywood and made my career. Like, how do you even get started? Because I moved from the Netherlands to Canada, but I had I moved here for my then girlfriend, now wife. So I had something to come home to, right? How did that work for you? Did you just like drive there and be there?
Sort of in between. There were these two guys who were a couple actually, and I had edited a film for them, a short film for them in Chicago, and they had since moved to LA, and so I reached out to them. They were one of the few people I knew out here. I knew a few people from college, but then I reached out to them, and they said I could live with them, and they might have a job lined up. And so I was like, okay. And so then I moved out of Chicago back to Minneapolis for a month. Well, not Minneapolis, but like an hour away from Minneapolis, where I grew up, St. Croix Falls. Lived at my parents' house for a month, bought a car, my first ever car, and then just filled it up and drove out to LA. Took like 5 days, took my time, started going bonkers as I was going out. It was pretty sad period of my life, actually. But then got out here. The job that those two guys said they had kind of didn't. It had fallen through, so I had no real prospects. I wound up working at a company called This Week In, which is where I kind of learned how to... I'd already had a little bit of knowledge about live switching using a TriCaster and stuff, but that's where I had like daily experience doing that, editing and technical direction with the live switching out there for... I did not like that boss or that job at all. No. I was paid very little, and it was very bad. Bad drive, bad commute, bad everything. I don't remember how I got that job. I must have just looked on Indeed.com or something, and it was just some kind of thing. But then after a year of that, through Matt Raub, actually, I think he had worked there, and he worked at Smosh Games for a while, coincidentally. But a friend of his, who I think might have been Megan Rue, who now works at Epic, but at the time worked at Game Trailers, had posted on Facebook just like, hey, we're looking for editors for E3. And I was like, I don't know what E3 is, but I'll go and see if I can edit for this company, And it was just like a 2-week job. But then I got irritated with the boss at This Weekend and just kind of hard quit. Because I didn't like the way I was being treated. And so then my plan was just to like hope for the best and leverage the 2 weeks at Game Trailers into an ongoing job, and it sort of worked out. It sort of worked out. So whatever. But didn't really have a plan.
That's like, it's a success story because you're like a co-founder of a big outlet now, and everything worked out for you. But just to get in that car with like your whole life basically and just drive off, like what is going? Like, I knew what was going through my head when I did it, but what's going through your head when you drive there? Because it's such an uncertainty. There's no safety net other than like at least a place to stay. What was your backup plan?
I guess my parents were my backup plan. Like, I think a lot of millennials could say that maybe, but I wasn't worried. I'm fortunate. I came from a fortunate background. My dad's a doctor, and my parents are both very well. My mother passed away a few years back, but they were both always very supportive and stuff. So like, I always had that kind of safety net, you know? But I think also because of my upbringing, there was sort of an ignorance and maybe a false confidence that I was like, you know, oh, nothing could go wrong. You know, what could go wrong? And so I guess I didn't really think about a backup plan. I just kind of, and I was used to being like depressed and like, and not having a lot of money myself. You know, I've been working since I was 14. So like, you know, I'd paid my own rent and everything since freshman year of college, you know, so like I've been, you know, more or less self-sufficient. I mean, not to say that my parents didn't do a lot of huge things for me, but like, so I was kind of just used to it and, and just kind of did it. So yeah, I guess I didn't think about it, which looking back is like very weird.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
It's not false confidence when it paid off, right? And it's just confidence.
I guess if the gamble worked, then you were right all along. Yeah. I mean, I think that I forgot what I was gonna say, but yeah, it is weird. I don't know. Oh, I know what I was gonna say is there's a trend throughout my life of I can take bad news pretty well. Yeah. So I think like getting kicked out of the theater school, getting fired from a job or two, my roommate, best friend saying I'm moving out of the city. All of these things to me they're kind of good news, like because they're a huge change and they're outside of my control. So now I get the privilege of having to react and roll with it. Yeah. And so you know, to me, it's kind of a gift in a weird way. Like, it's bad news and it's upsetting emotionally, but it gives you kind of license to go for it.
Yeah, new opportunities that you have to take. Yeah, instead of sitting out. I think I see what you mean, but it's not everybody has that. Like, I think more people are. A little bit more taken aback by things like that, but it's a good quality to have, probably in LA, especially when you know
for sure. You've got to be a self-starter out here. Yeah. The thing that I hem and haw about are like things that are my own choice. You know, like relationships or various other choices. You know, then I'll just ruminate for years. So I prefer when life just says this is happening. Yeah.
Stuff happens to you. That's not bad. But I want to rewind a little bit because you mentioned like before you went here, you edited a movie for that couple in LA.
Yeah.
When did you turn that passion for like video and audio into something livable that you could make? When did you monetize your hobby?
Well, my first real job out of college. Well, I worked in a movie theater a bunch, and then I got a job at the Board of Trade in Chicago working for this company called Peak Six, cutting video for trading, like options trading, which I know nothing about, you know, and I worked there for like a year or 2 years and still don't fully understand, you know, any of that stuff. No. But that was a weird time where it was just like I was working for like super rich people and going around, and they would like take me to conferences in Vegas, and like I would edit weird videos. And I mean, for me, I was making like insane amounts of money at the time, which to me at 23 or whatever, you know, it was like 30 grand a year or something. It was, you know, not a lot. But at the time, I was just like, "Oh my God, this is, you know, I don't need anything more." Yeah, you know, your first real job, you're just like, all
this money.
I'm ripping them off. This is great. When really, I was undervaluing myself dramatically. But so that was my first job as an editor, video editor and shooter. I've sort of always had jobs as like a generalist, you know. Yeah. But then they shut down my division there, and I just went back to the movie theater for a couple, you know, until I moved moved to LA.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
Yeah.
This is just a curiosity that I have, because like I am just learning video editing, and that is a skill you have, you know, just to put the things together. But to make it look good, that is more of a talent. Like, I don't like the word talent, because talent often just means hard work and doing a lot of it.
Yeah.
But when it comes to film, I think there is something there, like you have it or you don't. Where did you find that part of your skill set?
Well, in film school, it was the second or third year of DePaul University's digital cinema department. So everything was very weird and in its infancy, which I liked because it afforded us the opportunity to kind of make the program as we were doing it. I'm pretty sure the film festival that they still do, myself and a few other of my classmates started, because they didn't have it. So we were like, well, we should do this. And now they still do it. And it was kind of the same with editing because HD, we were shooting to mini DV tapes at the time, and HD was like just happening in Final Cut. And like even the editing teacher wasn't really sure how to make the stuff work. So we all kind of just had to figure it out together. This whole new weird frontier. And I discovered that I've always had like a visual memory, and that kind of really comes into play with editing. And especially if I'm like if I shot it also, you kind of are just editing it as you go, you know? And so you can jump in, or I could jump into the editing room and just kind of be done already. I just had to do it. Which sometimes it might sound like that might get boring or whatever, but you can discover new things. But in film school, I discovered that I enjoyed it, and putting things into order, being really organized, discipline in that kind of stuff. I found I enjoyed it, which was interesting because up until college, I had always kind of just been a goof off, and I was just kind of like, class clowning all around and like just kind of trying to make people laugh and not taking anything too seriously in high school. And then in college, I started realizing like, oh, it's faster if you just do your work in an organized way, and then you can do fun stuff after.
Maybe I'll get it one day.
Yeah. I guess I developed some kind of like guilt or something about because I can't let myself relax until I'm done with everything. Which is great. Unless you have like 3 solid months of having to do stuff, then you kind of start getting drained. But
But what was the project that made you feel like, okay, this is something I'm really gonna be able to build a career on?
There was in college, the first couple of times we got to do our own narrative short films where either I would wind up as the head of a team or, there were a few shorts that I made where I really could just be weird. They're kind of David Lynchy sort of weird stuff. Some stuff aped pretty directly from like Twin Peaks or whatever, And then senior year, I got to do, they awarded me a kind of a grant to do a budget for a longer form piece. That was like an hour long. The combination of that stuff where I was just like, oh man, you can really create anything that you dream of. And that kind of control and creative output, I fell in love. And I've always loved film, but like making it, I was just like, oh, okay, this is perfect. So once you discovered that, like that passion, I always admire people that have a strong passion, because I've never had a super strong passion for anything. And then when I see someone who has it and they talk about it, I'm like, I wish I had that. But so now you find out you're good at it, you're talented. And then I guess LA is a bit of the promised land for someone like you. But you leave a lot behind. Like, how did you make the decision of you already left home, I guess, for several years, so you were far away from there. But still, it's a big step. It's a no return often when you become successful, and that's what I had when I moved. Because I had a Canadian girlfriend, we known each other for a long time, so I moved there to make it work. But the downside of that is, like, if it works, that means you're gonna stay. So you're gonna leave everything else behind. How did you deal with that? Because it's nice to know I have this backup, I can go back home. But the idea of, okay, this is gonna work means I'm gonna be here forever. How do you juggle that, or is that something that I just awoken in your? Yeah, it's kind of a funny thing because I think, I mean, because I kind of said before that I like didn't really think, I just went for it.
Mm-hmm.
And in a weird way, that's kind of how I feel about a lot of things in life. I think that this is kind of a circuitous answer, but sort of to answer this for me personally, I think that one of the ways my brain or psychology deals with stress is to disassociate and sort of distance itself. And so my general kind of operation from day to day is sort of this depersonalized kind of mindset.
Yeah.
And so in a weird way, like, yeah, I miss my sister and I miss my dad, who live 3,000 miles away.
Mm-hmm.
And I miss my friends from home, you know. But it doesn't really cause me distress, I guess, in a noticeable way.
Yeah.
And I get back a couple times a year to see them all and talk to my friends online and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird, though, because L.A., I think, is a city where it's hard to make friends.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good few years out here before I think I found sort of a group of people that I felt anywhere near as strongly about as people from Chicago or people I grew up with, you know, who I'm still close to. Like, I'm still really close. Every time I'm home, I see people that I've known since I was 4 years old, you know?
Yeah.
And so that was the big adjustment for me, I think, that LA is just different than the Midwest. It's very much kind of like everybody's here for a reason, you know, and that reason is not you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you kind of just have to adjust your mind to that.
Yeah.
I read a really brilliant piece, an article, I don't remember what it was in, The Guardian or something, about how in LA you don't matter, and that gives you absolute freedom because you can kind of be whoever you want to be out here.
Yeah.
And no one cares.
Yeah.
And that's a positive and a negative. It's like no one's going to help you, but no one's going to care what you're wearing or what you're up to, you know?
Yeah. But that must give a certain type of freedom.
Yeah.
So like, I fully understand what you mean, because I'm here in Canada. All my family lives in the Netherlands. So when they come over, especially my mom, she always like, well, don't you miss home? And I'm like, no, I cannot really afford to miss home, because otherwise I would be miserable every single day. Right. And for them, it's different, right? Because it's just a piece missing. For me, it's just like a whole new thing that I have here. But I think it's hard to understand if you have never made that step, never made the move that far away, left everything behind. Do you think, like I told you, I wanted to talk a little bit about the pursuit of happiness.
Yeah.
Is this what has been the right choice for you? Do you think Ian staying in Chicago or in Wisconsin would have been happier or happy at all?
I do think this was the right choice. I sometimes wonder what would have happened if I had left earlier to come out here. Because there were a few years where I was kind of just grinding my gears in Chicago, getting, you know, freelance gigs here and there, but by and large they were not super interesting to me, mostly commercial kind of stuff, which, you know, whatever. And I mean, like, I do miss like thunderstorms and weather variety and stuff like that, but I would definitely get really seasonally depressed in the wintertime. Which is something the extent to which I didn't realize until I got out here to the land of eternal summer. Where I'm just like, oh, and like, I don't even go outside that much, but it's just like, it really is different. And for me, it made a big difference. Cause like not seeing the sun for 7 months got to me after a while.
Yeah. We're in the polar vortex here. So I do envy somewhat.
It was cold as Antarctica up there recently.
It was not fun. But I'm happy to see when someone makes a jump like that pays off, right? Because like I've followed your work for a while. I've been following game creators and your work for a while, and I'm not sure if this is because I only see you for an hour, right? When I see you on a podcast or whatever, so I get this very slice of you. But you are it's mostly on the surface, and I think a couple of years back, on what it was on the surface was not as you didn't seem as happy as I see you now when I see you operate the things. What made that change in the last couple of years? That just getting used to it, or?
For me, I've never been great at not carrying my baggage around with me all the time. And so, like, during the Game Trailers years, I was, having a string of, like, breakups or whatever. Like, I had a girlfriend around that time that I was very enthusiastic about, and it didn't work out, And so I think I was generally just kind of melancholic back then. But also... with Game Trailers, I loved the job because it was fun, it wasn't very hard, it paid pretty well. And then when Defy bought us, they asked what everyone's rates were, and I was like, nobody tell them. And then we all were like, we need to get paid more. And then we got paid way more. And, and so like, it was decent money for not hard work, but it was still in my mind a day job because I didn't own it. We didn't own it. I was there. I was a hired gun. I would just do what needed to be done, and I was known for being fast. And the way that I was fast was that you just find the first thing that works, go with it, and then if you after editing for a long time, you remember your timeline, and I'm like, okay, this thing that I just saw now would fit better for that placeholder thing before, and you swap it out, so it's not like you're not putting the best stuff in there, but like you don't ruminate if you don't have to. And like that was all well and good for a day job, but now that Easy Allies is happening, there's a sense of pride that I don't think I've ever had with a job, like certainly I've felt pride for a product, for an episode or a short film, but this is an entity that I am a co-owner of, and it feels amazing. And now that we have this studio, I've been in there almost every day since we got it, or since we moved in January, since I think we paid the first month's rent in December, but it's December. LA just shuts down for a month and a half around December. But and it just feels incredible. Like the episode of Easy Update for this week is fixing drywall, and that's something I've never done before. Yeah. But I wanted to do it because I feel this sense of pride in that studio space now, and like I feel like it's our baby, and I want my baby to be comfortable.
Well, that's good. It's always good to make your baby comfortable.
Yeah.
But has it been a creative drive for you when you like you said like it was a day job, but it was just editing. You had your own show on that, which I thought was great. But that must have taken like some creativity. Like that is a drive. Did you manage to put a lot of that into that? Absolutely,
yeah. With Game Trailers, I don't want to give the impression that I only felt it was a day job. That was more like at first. And then, as Mandatory Update happened, I really started to feel a sense of ownership and joy through that. And, for sure, that improved it phenomenally. And we were working on Seedlings at the time with Justin and John, who I met at Viacom. Which was a lot of fun, and I mean, like, hopefully we finish it someday. We had pitched it to Netflix a couple of years ago, and like they gave us a development deal, and then turned out that they wanted something different from what we wanted, and so it didn't work out.
And they're doing everything now, so
who knows? But and so it was an amazing experience. Just like being in that room, and. So things here and at Game Trailers had just been getting better and better year by year, and and Mandatory Update is one of the things that I loved the most about Game Trailers, because we had carte blanche on that thing. We could do pretty much whatever we wanted, and like no one would watch it or stop us. Defy, the only like mandate we had one time, Defy said that we couldn't make fun of them.
Okay.
Like there was an episode where I made a joke about I don't even remember what it was, but there was definitely a joke that Defy, someone higher up at Defy from like another city, was just like,
let's not
brakes.
do that again.
Yeah. And we were like, okay, all right, okay.
Yeah. Fair enough. So now it's like all your thing. Does it come with more personal freedom as well? Because when I see you seem to have opened up a little bit more about yourself and the things that you're going through. Is that easier now that you don't have like a DeFi media person in another city looking over your shoulder?
Yeah, to an extent, I think. It's kind of weird because when someone else owns your company, not you, you know, there's a freedom in that because you're not at the end of the day, you're not like, the buck doesn't stop entirely with you, but like they'll come down on you if it does, you know. But now that it's ours, you have to police yourself, you know. And I think that Easy Allies got incredibly lucky because we have 9 people who just sort of are decent. Yeah. We don't, like, I might be the rabble rouser, you know, in the group. Like I'm the one who says, you know, the shocking things to just kind of cuz, you know. Yeah. And as far as that goes, like I think I'm pretty tame comparatively to a lot of people in the world maybe. And you know, there are definitely a couple of jokes I made that I wish I hadn't, but like you know, by and large I think that all 9 of us are nice and conscientious people, and I feel very lucky that just, like, we don't have, like, some people think that there's been a mandate, like that we try not to swear or that we try not to do that, this or that or the other thing, and like, I guess, like, we don't get political much just because we aren't like interested in Easy Allies being about that. And that's not to say that we want to be silent in times of turmoil. Like we want to support the things and the people we believe in, obviously. But like, also it can just be kind of, you know, video games are, to me, supposed to be about having fun. Yeah. And I'm going to try to have fun, you know, and talking about politics is not fun for me. No. I don't enjoy it. But like, yeah, there hasn't been a mandate. We have more direct access to people's feedback now. And like, people have said like, hey, if you say this phrase, you know, it kind of rubs me the wrong way or whatever. And then we can just be like, oh, okay, we will try not to say that anymore, you know? And like, that's good. I think it's not like, we're not trying to be the preschool of the internet, but it's just like, but yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I find that it's, it opened me up in a new and surprising way. And I think that honesty is kind of a currency for Easy Allies. Like, not really in a commercial sense. I mean, I guess to an extent it is, but like us being forthright and open and honest about ourselves is kind of what people respond to, I think. And I find it's easier to just be yourself because it's too much work to be somebody else.
Yeah, no, that's true. And what I like about it, like, I've been a part of the Easy Allies community. I still am. I enjoy your content as a patron and as someone who just like gets fed all your amazing content. But what I see in your community, there seems to be these certain bubbles of wonderful people, and I think what you have brought to the group is a sort of like a safe space. It gets always a negative association now with the word safe space,
which I don't understand why. It's
stupid. But and they're such a wonderful group of people. But you are just like this person who loved doing video stuff, and now you have a great job at Easy Allies. How do you deal with? It's not a responsibility, but like you attract a certain group of people that really look up to you because for the first time they feel included because they see you on a podcast or whatever. How do you deal with that on a personal level? Because it must be weird getting that, like you said, direct feedback all of a sudden. You don't get training for that. How do you deal? I mean,
definitely you don't get training, or at least I haven't had training. I mean, I've been in therapy off and on for my whole life, so maybe that's training. But just learning to listen and talk and see yourself. But yeah, no, I mean, I think that video games are a really interesting space because they attract all kinds of people, right? Like there are certain kinds of people that get a lot of press for being gamers, but then there's everybody else, where it's whether you're, a kid who finds that you relate to a character in a video game and that brings you into the whole world of that, or if you don't play games but just like watching streams, or if you're queer or gay or anything like, and I mean I just think like there's room for everybody in it, and why would it be any other way? And sort of like I was talking about a second ago about being honest about who we are and like being true to ourselves. I'm still figuring that stuff out for myself, and I haven't talked about it very directly, mostly because I was worried about my dad finding out things about me in a way that weren't just coming from me to him.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm necessarily ready to talk about specifics yet.
No, you don't
but
have to.
Oh, no. But I mean, like, I wasn't thinking that you were trying to get me to. But, I recently did have a conversation about all that stuff with my dad. And, like, it feels like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. And I think I'm, going to eventually be ready to talk about all that kind of stuff. Mostly like gender and that kind of thing, which to me has just been like, for me personally, just like kind of a lifelong journey sort of discovery. And I think that other people who have similar experiences, I think that other people who have similar experiences or any kind of experience in that realm, or even just being an outsider in some other way, see that in me, I guess, and respond to that. And I've gotten a lot of comments from people who just it's kind of intense to like get a comment from someone who says that, like, effectively what they're saying is like, hey, you just by virtue of being you have like given me license to be myself in this whole other way. Yeah. And it blows my mind. I don't really know how to express, I don't know if like thanks is the right word. But
yeah. Well, yeah. Well, gratitude. Yeah. Yeah. That's
hey, Omar.
No worries. But does it work both ways? Because like I know I've seen firsthand from the community how much you mean to those people, because just like you said, they see you in the space and it gives them like the confidence maybe to be themselves a little bit more. Does it help you to see that you have attracted so many people who are so supportive of what you are, what you want to be, and what you do, to make it easier for yourself as well?
Yeah, I think it definitely is a two-way street for sure. Like, I think that, yeah, the people who come to me and say things about that kind of stuff, like, oh, you've made it so much easier to be myself, that kind of thing, like, them saying that to me makes it easier for me to be myself and gives me confidence to be more forthcoming about it and more visible about it in videos or whatever. And so, yeah, it for sure, it's this Ouroboros of we're just like feeding each other confidence and security and encouragement to like go out in the world and be whoever you want to be. And I think that's amazing. And I think that the internet, that's like one of the best things about the internet too, is that it's facilitated that kind of relationship with people all over the planet that you never would have met otherwise. And I love it that you can just form communities on that kind of thing.
But because that's what I like about your stories. Like you become this public figure in a section of the internet, and you have this positive influence in a group of people. if you would have been like a behind the scenes guy for forever, you might have not touched those people, and they might have still been by themselves. So I'm happy that you decided to drive to LA and do what you do, because you never know the influence you might have had. And we talk about representation in video games, but I think in the video game space, personality-wise, it's even more important because you're an actual person.
Yeah.
and I think a lot of people would like to do what you do, but they might not have the confidence to do it. And to see you become successful, I think that it's just like a jewel that you've brought to the space, because there's not a lot of that, I think.
Well, thanks. Yeah.
It's
it's interesting.
Yeah.
Video games specifically is interesting because where, just for myself, I'm always looking for people, that's what representation is always so amazing. And like, I'm always looking for people like me in other places. And in games, there are a lot of like genderqueer or trans developers and, or composers or writers, and people working in this field. And it's really interesting to me that I see a lot of people in games that are, in that space. And like, it's really, I think we're on the cusp of, I mean, obviously a lot of people are just already accepted in their field now. And I think we're in this weird time where there are growing pains or whatever, but I think it's a really exciting time to be a part of any field, but specifically gaming, because it's growing and changing so quickly and in a really interesting way. And so, yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I look out into the world and see people that I look up to and out there doing stuff, and I'm just like, man, like the confidence that they have, it floors me. And like, because I feel afraid, and like to see people thinking the same thing about me is just, it is crazy to me, because I feel the same way, so it's an interesting thing, because, and I think that's kind of the thing, is everybody's afraid. Like we're all feeling the same.
It's true. Who are some people that you still look up to, or who inspire you in this in the industry or elsewhere?
Well, in this kind of instance, I mean, ContraPoints is like a huge one. She's Natalie Wynn is just doing such cool stuff. But I mean, yeah, I look up to a lot of different people in games and movies and stuff from all walks of life. I mean, Jordan Peele, what he's doing right now is just like so cool to me. I don't know, they're too numerous to name, I guess, but I find my closest friends are the ones who inspire me, I think, the most, because I get both sides of the story, you know what I mean? Like I see their successes, and then I hear their woes and their fears. So I get to, it puts everything in context, like people whose outward image seems like everything is put together and fine, and then when you're talking to them, they're like, I'm freaking out.
It's
I
good.
love that.
It's the front-facing confidence, I guess. You can't compare your behind the scenes with their Facebook status, but I like games has been. Like you said, it's such an incredible space, because it's easy to focus on the bad, because it's in the news, it's often bad, but there have been so many good things that the gaming, to me personally, has added as well, because it gave me so many perspectives that I did not have before, because my direct circles is all just like me, right? It's middle straight, married, and then I started doing the thing in the game space through some weird way with a cat, and then all of a sudden I was part of it, but then all of a sudden
speaking of which, it's very interesting for me to be seeing you as a person right now, because you were a cat before. To me for years.
Yeah, that's true. You're the only one I haven't actually met face to face, so I'm glad we're doing this, because I've met pretty much everyone else, but then all of a sudden I get to talk to people with a perspective of life I've never had before, like people with disabilities, people of color, and it kind of helped me, I think, grow as a person a little bit as well. Maybe I mellowed out a little bit with that as well, because it's easy to say stupid shit, especially on the internet, when you never have that someone tapping you on the shoulder saying like, hey, actually what you're saying right now is not cool. Or so I'm, like I said, I'm glad there's people who are open about it and who are trying to make this space a little better. You have had, like we just talked about positive experiences, but I know you also have to deal with some shit. Do you still think we're moving into the right direction, or is it not moving at all?
It's hard to tell sometimes, like my general hope is that humanity trends positive over time.
Mm-hmm.
Lately, I've been thinking that it'll trend slower than I would like it to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, like, another part about living in LA is, like, here I feel safe and, like I can be myself.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, like, if I'm going to visit an aunt in Scottsdale, Arizona, I might
Mm-hmm.
take the nail polish off,
Yeah.
No shade on, well, maybe some shade on
a little
Scottsdale.
shade on Arizona.
Yeah. I mean, it's like 190 degrees over there. They need all the shade they can get. But, like, and I just, I hear about people, even in the Easy Allies community, that are living in a rough area,
Mm-hmm.
and can't be themselves because of it. And, like, because it's not safe. Like, it's just not everywhere. And, I mean, it's not safe anywhere completely. Nowhere is 100%. But, like, I find myself, I got into a discussion with someone in the comments. I don't know if I'd ever call something in the comments a discussion, I guess. But, like, just because it's easy to misconstrue people's tones and stuff. Not saying, like, you can't have good discourse in a comment section. But, like, generally, I think people tend toward defensiveness in text, But, like, went back and forth about, like, long story short, I was just saying, like, hey, I think that hate is kind of useless, and I don't really understand why people, by and large, kind of behave the way they do all the time. And they were saying, like, oh, you want everyone to be robots because you want to get rid of hate. And I'm like, well, hate's not the only emotion.
No.
Like, it's a useless byproduct of fear and anger, I guess. And fear and anger have good uses sometimes, like, without those we wouldn't be anywhere. And so, like, it's just kind of funny. Like, I think we have too much hate for our own good right now. And, like, the fires are being stoked politically, but, like, I gotta hope that it's just like a death pang of this kind of thinking. And I really think exposure is the answer, because, like, people are afraid of people they've never met, and, like, if you don't see the kinds of people that you're afraid of just living normal lives, you invent stories about it. And, like, that's, I think, the root of a lot of these issues. So I think that things like the internet or all that kind of stuff are going to push that, and eventually everything's gonna, we'll have a whole other weird set of issues to deal with.
Well,
in 100 years.
Well, and it's, I think, in the gaming space, we've kind of done it to ourselves as well, because we have made the angriest people very successful in the like, say, the last 10 years.
Right.
And I always hammer on this in my own, like, we need to make kindness profitable. And that's why when I see like a group like Easy Allies, who are doing great, not just content-wise, but also financially, you can take care of yourself. And, like, okay, this is better than the angry wave that we've had a couple of years ago. So at least we're trending in the right direction there, because I see more content creators coming out with a more positive tone. But they need to be lifted up, and they need to start making a lot of money, because I think that's going to inspire the next generation. Because I think with content creation, it's always the one group inspiring the next, because we turn around so fast nowadays. So I'm glad that you guys are around, and that that they see people like, hey, I don't have to be an asshole online to make a lot of money. So at least we're going in the right direction there.
For every Alex Jones, there's an Ellen, like. She's a multimillionaire probably, and she's very positive, and so I think that, like, there is definitely hope. I just think it's harder it's harder to be positive in your everyday life. You know, just I mean, like drive a car.
Yeah.
Like it's easy to get mad at somebody, right?
Yeah.
Like, whereas it's harder in the moment when someone cuts you off to be like, well, I wonder what their perspective on this situation is. You know, like that's not the human first response.
I'm getting really good at that, but I don't live in LA.
Yeah. Yeah, LA is very interesting traffic-wise to teach you how to drive elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, growing up, I was scared to drive in Minneapolis, and now it seems like everyone is way too slow and everyone's way too polite.
Yeah, that's funny. I've only seen LA traffic from the back of an Uber when I was around at E3.
It's not that bad, you know. It's like everyone is. It's famous for being, you know, insane all the time. But everyone's out for themselves, and as long as you do what you're going to do quickly, you're fine.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's good. Well, I'm glad everything is going well for you, and that you are building a career now on, like, you get to do your video stuff. You can create your own show, like Easy Update, and you get to play games for a living. And I want to talk with you a little bit about games because, you know.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We kind of have to, because you are a notorious fan of the Bloodborne series. But what I always wonder, 'cause I know how much you love that game, but what I'm curious about is, did Bloodborne do everything right that you already loved, or did Bloodborne set like a precedent and then you found out like, oh, this is what I want from my game?
Yeah, I mean, to me, Dark Souls was the first one where I was just like, oh, okay. That was the first 3D game that felt as elegant to me as like Mario or Metroid, you know, where it's like, it controlled the way I wanted it to, and like felt direct and immediate in a way that I really liked. And so Bloodborne just took everything that I loved about that and made it faster and more fluid, and then made it gothic horror. And I'm just like, you know, so it was the perfect storm of everything I like in one place. But like I back at Game Trailers, we would joke all the time that Dark Souls like ruined video games for me, and for a few of the rest of us, you know, because it was just too good, and everything else kind of pales in comparison. But yeah, so then Bloodborne came along and just raised the bar even higher. What
makes you such a, not a sucker, but a sucker for like the way that Bloodborne handles lore? Because like I hear rave about it, but like, why is that specifically? Why does it work for you so well?
For me, it works the best because to me, it feels like the way a game should tell a story. Not should, I guess that's the wrong term, but like for an action-y game like that, that's how I want my story given to me. Me personally, I'm not saying that's the only way, obviously, but maybe it comes from growing up playing Myst and like those kinds of games where it was sort of up to you to figure out what exactly is happening. It just feels more interactive to me, and it doesn't get in the way of me hitting things with a sword.
That's always important.
Whereas like other games, cutscenes, even if I'm interested in the story, I'm like, right, but I could be playing right now too. And so I think games as a medium are still like learning how they want to do that. And like for me personally, the Souls series has found the right balance of cinema and video games. But that said, I mean, like The Missing is one of my favorite video game stories of all time now, and it's mostly told through text messages. So I don't know. I guess if it's good, it's just good, you know.
But what was the game that you played that got you like hooked? Because we do a lot of stuff as kids, but most of the things we forget, we move on from. Like people watch movies their whole lives, but video game is the one that either captures you or doesn't.
Right.
Do you know what that one was, or?
I mean, the first video game I ever remember playing, I think, was called Gopher, and I played it with my dad, and you played as a gopher trying to, like, wreck a guy's farm or something like that. That was on, like, the IBM 100 years ago. But, I mean, like, where I first... The games that stick out in my mind where I first was like, oh, man, this is for real. Myst, for sure. And then I really liked Stronghold, the RTS, and Warcraft 2. And then Suikoden, I think, was the first. Suikoden 1 and 2. Yeah, oh man, on PlayStation. Oh, and Symphony of the Night.
Yeah.
Like by then I was just like all in. I was like, give it to me, give it all of this to me. Silent Hill, Final Fantasy, come on, you know.
Yeah, I didn't play Symphony of the Night until they did a re-release on the Xbox 360, I think. I missed that, but Suikoden is one of the first games that I would set my alarm clock like 2 hours before I had to get up, before I had to go to school, just to sneak in 2 hours, and then I would leave it on all day because I wasn't at a good save point or whatever.
Those are the days.
Dear Lord, I still remember the scene with Gremio. It's probably the first time that a video game got me emotional.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
I think Suikoden 1 and 2 are the first games that like I was like, oh, feelings too. Okay,
feelings. Yeah.
We're doing that now.
Yeah, the same because I lived in the Netherlands most of my life, so we didn't get all the games. But Suikoden 1, I got my hands on. I never played Suikoden 2 until I got it here on the Vita. Great. I still prefer 1 just because of nostalgia, I think.
I love them both.
Yeah. But I recently discovered that we have a shared love for the best game in the world to me, and that's Dragon's Dogma. Now, I go off on this game all the time. But why can you, maybe from you, people will understand it better than when I tweet about it every 27 seconds, but why is that such a great game?
Because it's so dumb. Like, I can't, I mean, you just said it. It's impossible to explain Dragon's Dogma to people. Yeah. Well, because the gameplay is solid. It's not as rock solid as like Bloodborne or whatever, but it feels really good to jump on a monster and try to fight it. It feels good to use a bow and arrow. It feels good to use daggers in that game. The pawn system is so weird, but it's like really unique. You make a follower for yourself, and you can send them into friends' games. The story is like so bananas, and like the tone of the game is really, really weird. It's like lighthearted, but also really serious. Like the way that the game makes you like actually just walk everywhere unless you have the fairy stone or whatever is so weird. Like this game should be terrible, and it's just amazing. And then it has, you know, like a inverted castle style, just like weird twist ending that's just so bonkers, and then things just go like off the rails. And then Dark Arisen was really good. I'm really I want to play it all the time, but I'm waiting for the Switch version now because I'm just gonna play the hell out of that.
Can't wait for a Switch version, because I always say, like, if you just finish a story 8 times in a row, the story actually starts to make sense. Because I've been speed running Dragon's Dogma, and I'm like, I'm like 5th. I think they knocked me down to 6th in the world now. Because you can
I watch that? I want to watch you speedrun this.
Yeah, I'll send you a link. I think it's on Twitch or on YouTube. 18 minutes, but it's a half an hour video, because it has an in-game timer, so it doesn't count cutscenes and menu time.
Okay,
but it's fantastic. Like I've gone off on this many times, but like you said, like the systems are solid, but the story itself is actually quite interesting when you play it 8 times in a row. When you start to and I think it's like Bloodborne, where there's a lot of lore to be found. If you look for it. Otherwise, it's just like a weird sword with this dragon and things falling out of the sky. But no, there's a lot there. So I hope that the Switch version is going to do well. Because there was an interview with the director this week that said, like, well, I could have made Dragon's Dogma 2 or Devil May Cry 5. Now he's done with Devil May Cry 5, and every time there's a Dragon's Dogma article on online, my notifications on Twitter light up because people start sending it to me. It's hilarious. It's the best. Please keep doing that because I love it. So, but we'll see. I'm definitely going to buy the Switch version.
Oh, for sure. It's one of my favorite games. I love it. It's so good. Like, I want to play the online one. I don't even know if it
think it's here.
Actually came out. I know it's not in America, but I don't even know if it exists at all. Like, oh man, Dragon's Dogma. Well, and like, I love in games where it subverts your expectations. Like, you know, minor Dragon's Dogma spoilers right now, I guess. But
2012.
anytime where Yeah. Anytime where the choice you think is the right choice is not the right choice.
Yeah.
I think is really cool.
Yeah. Well,
like how the bad guys in Dark Souls are kind
yeah.
of the good guys, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. That's always the example I use to try to sell this game to everyone that's willing to listen. Is in the very beginning, there's just a random dude that runs up to you. Oh, I lost my book. Can you help me find my book? And you're like, ugh, fetch quest, right? And then you do the whole storyline, and then all of a sudden you're finding this giant dragon. And a dude shows up like, check what I learned from the book that you find, and he summons like this giant fireball onto the griffin that helps you do it. Like, I love that. I've never seen it in a game before. I'm sure it's out there, but I've never seen it before. So yeah, that's it's the best. So when we both get on Switch, we should exchange codes so we can send our pawns into each other's games.
We're gonna be streaming the heck out of it. I bet when that happens.
Please. Help me spread the gospel of Dragon's Dogma.
Gladly.
Yeah, we will. But before I'm gonna end this here on a high note, which is Dragon's Dogma is always a high note. I did get a question from Jesse Vitali from my Patreon, brand new Patreon. So he had a question, and he is also in production, and he would like to know. What is your favorite part of the process from production standpoint? Is it like setting up the new lights, or is it working the prompter, or just run and gun camera at E3?
Of production for Easy Alley specifically?
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. I really love the editing part of it because that's where you get to be the weirdest usually, and you can take your own time and you can be kind of your own thing to yourself, you know? But anytime we get to do any performance stuff, working with each other, making jokes, I really like. I mean, it's the cheesy answer is like I like all of it, but I really do.
Yeah.
But I would say that editing is probably where I have the most like weird fun.
Yeah.
But I've definitely wound up like sitting in a chair for 12 hours before, like going down an editing vortex. So like that's probably not healthy.
Maybe not.
But,
well, that's what he says too. He says, "I love the lack of sleep and long hours to the point where you start to question existence. It's a weird sense of camaraderie." So I see that being a thing. But yeah, no, you're like fantastic at it. I start to appreciate the timelines when people post those. You know, the premiere timelines. Mine is like 3 channels where it's like video and then sometimes extra audio because I don't do the pop-ups. I put everything on one screen. But maybe one day I'll learn. I know you have a good video with that.
If you're being organized, your timeline is usually as few tracks as you can possibly manage, you know. So
that is true.
Yeah.
I'm still learning, but it's fun. So I should check that video again with you and Uber where you're teaching them how to edit, because I did take some pointers from that with the J cuts and the L cuts and stuff.
Yeah.
But since I don't cut my video much, it's once or twice that I got to use it.
My number one tip is make H add edit at playhead.
Oh yeah.
Make that hotkey your add edit hotkey H, because it's where your hand is anyway.
Yeah, I guess
Omar uses that. He told me the other day.
Yeah,
my roommate Omar here. He told me he uses that.
Yeah,
and I felt very happy.
That's pretty sweet. I just learned how to speed up my preview because last week edit the sound cut out or the video froze every now and then, so I had to watch the whole thing so I could put an overlay picture so I don't have my guests with their mouth open and their eyes closed for 20 seconds. Yeah, and I was like, I have to watch this for an hour, and then I learned you can just speed up the video. So every episode, I'm learning something new.
And if it's buckling, you can turn down the quality, the playback quality. It speeds it up. Makes it run better. The little thing that probably says full to the right of your thing. Just click that and go down to half or something, and it'll be even better.
I did not know that. See, I'm learning on the show. Thank you so much, Ian Hinck.
Yeah.
But this was great. I'm so happy that you agreed to come on the show, because I
of course,
like we talk every now and then, but it's nice to have a face to face and get to know you a little bit better. Because like I said, you're one of the only ones I have not had the pleasure of meeting face to face in LA.
Yeah.
But once I come back, we'll have to make that work. So I end my show on a segment called Podcast and Chill. So is there anything you want to put a spotlight on, or something you want to promote?
Oh, so it's like, what do I want to plug?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just like look forward to new cool stuff from Easy Allies in our new studio. Omar and I made a Western musical that I had a lot of fun with. Omar shot it, and I was telling him about the Western musical. Oh yeah. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Just if you like a thing, watch it. If you don't like it, stop watching it.
Yeah, that's all fair enough. And everybody knows where to find you. Where can we find you if people are listening and they don't see your name on the screen all this time?
Just at Ian Hinck, Hinck. There's a hidden C in there. Mm-hmm. Those Germans, I tell you.
Scheiße.
On Twitter. That's me.
That's good. Well, it's good. Yeah. It's easy to find, and of course, easy allies. And let's be honest, everyone who's tuning into the show is here because of you, so they probably already know to find you.
Wow.
But that's it was great. I really enjoyed this episode. Talk to you, Ian.
I enjoyed this too. I feel like it's weird to just talk about yourself for an hour, but
I know, but that's my show, okay? Where I get people to talk about themselves for an hour.
It's great. Yeah,
I do appreciate it, and I get to hear all the cool stories from all these amazing people in the industry. So I'll try to close it off with promoting myself. I am the Hashtagonist. If you're still listening to me ramble and trying to close out the show, and you can find me on Twitter as well, and then you can find all the links here. And we'll be back again next week with other cool guests. So again, thank you, Ian, and we'll see you again soon.